Okay, today we're going to talk about eyes and facial anatomy. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the subtleties of laying in the eyes. I don't want to get too much into the construction. This is more about refinement, getting that nice subtlety, getting the nice variation in shape and type of the opening, and also most importantly, we want to talk about wrap. Basically, we want to get the eyes to feel like they're sitting on a plane that's curved, that's wrapping around the plane, because that's actually what the skull does, the facial mask does. It's like it works exactly like a cylinder. It works exactly like a cylinder. So we want the eyes to feel like they're sitting on a cylinder, not a flat plane. So let's get started. Actually, I'm going to bring that back. I like that drawing. Okay. So for this example, so we're going to think eyes on a flat plane, on a curved plane, excuse me. So here we have a nice female. I'm going to do a quick lay-in drawing. Go through the steps. So even though this female, typically females have a lot of subtleties. They tend to, when you draw them, you want to be a little bit softer on the touch and your sensibilities. More soft, more subtle. But this model, actually this subject has a very, I don't want to say masculine, but the face is very chiseled. Very idealized chiseled face, so it does make it easier in my opinion. So all the hair does this kind of thing. Okay, now let's zoom in a little bit here. Now, previously we had done our construction like this. Basically cut out the eye socket shape, using our measuring tools and things, and using real simple basic shapes. But what we want to do today is, instead of thinking of the eyes as a flat plane, we want this to wrap around, and we do that real simply by taking the curve. Well, first we have to follow the curve of, well, first let's try this. Take the curve of the eyebrow, the brow ridge, and do a nice 3-point section, divide it into thirds, and then we come up with something like this. So this idea becomes this. We draw it here, attempt to draw it here in the perspective. and the eyes would sit here. This is the nose. So basically just took a flat idea, divide it into thirds, and then curve it around. So it's very similar to the way Kevin Chen will break down the eye region. And here I'm going to flesh out my eye even further. Let me drop this down some more. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So we draw the ball. We know this. Draw the ball here. And basically, we want to take the ends. Now, normally they would line up here and here, right, on our straight. What we want to do is take the point back. Take the point back. Point back, point back. So instead of lining up straight, the eyes are going to line up this way. The lids, excuse me, the opening. We're going to force the lids to roll back in perspective to create. It's a real subtle illusion, really subtle, especially in this pose. It's not super. Eyes aren't super turned, so. Very subtle illusion. And here we want to wrap the eye around. Real simple. Real simple like that. So that's the first example. Here's another one. It's a little tricky. Before we do this example, I want to touch on this concept by Bern Hogarth, that the opening of the eye, for example here in this example, the left eye, notice how the opening, here's the tear duct, here's the ball of the eye, the opening isn't symmetrical, meaning it's not a perfect like this, right? No, it's not. That's not how we do it. The opening is actually asymmetrical. So again, ball the eye. Like this. The peak is here, the peak is here, and the peak runs at an angle. So the peak of the bottom lid runs at about a 30-degree angle from the peak of the top lid. But don't worry about that. Just don't make it symmetrical, because eyes are so different. It's so unique. You don't never want to stick to, a hard formula. So that's one way we handle the opening of the eye. In real simplistic terms, you can do this. Draw the lid. This is like a Riley opening. Here, 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 and here. So the same concept, but a lot more straights. That's one way to look at it. So remember, when you do your eyes, make sure you include this bulge too in the upper lid and the bottom lid, that they're not symmetrical like this first example. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And also, we want to think of the eyes in terms of planes. So this is, again, I learned this from Kevin. So let's say you have the opening eyeball here, tear duct here of the left eye. So we know the lid wraps, and we know that that the opening is not symmetrical in any way. So we know this. But if you want to add light and shade, you can take the same concept, right? Instead of using curves, you can use straights and planes. And I really like this way, especially if I'm painting. Basically just going to transform the eye into, it's almost a little too symmetrical now. And top plane overlaps bottom plane. So you have one to side, side, front, front, side, side planes. So either way works. I like this planar method because it lends itself nicely when you want to add shading. You want to add shading like this. It's really nice to know, you know, what's in light, you know, what's in halftone. Let's say the light source is here. So this way is really nice for that. Adding some nice tone. So just also keep in mind that you can construct your eye planarly in this way with 3 planes, front and 2 sides. And that's also a very important structural concept, because anytime you want to go over the form, like Steve Houston talks about this, anytime you want to go over a form like this, take the viewer from one side of the form to the other, you need a side, 2 sides, and then a middle. So this planar model works really well for that, because it automatically gives you 2 sides of the lid and a middle plane. And remember to keep the subtle nuance of the off-center bulge. Okay, that's another way to add subtlety to your eye is thinking planarly when you want to add light and shade. So let me just go through a couple examples here. This is a little tricky one. Females are always tricky. And she has very interesting eye types. So for homework, I want you to go ahead and do full heads, full-size heads. spend about 5 minutes or 10 minutes if you want to add tone and add some lighting. Take a crack at the lighting. Okay, so we know this, that the eyes, we start with a flat plane. But what we want to do is take this idea, easily divide it into 3 planes. Keystone plane, that's 1, side, and side, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 planes. And then we just take it down. And then take this wing down of the brow ridge of the eye socket. And we can take our cylinder, our eye line, instead of making our eye line straight, we want to wrap. Remember, wrap. That's what this is all about, getting that real subtle wrap. And it's super subtle, but it adds so much punch to your head drawings. Okay, so remember to wrap your eye construction. And I'm going to use a more linear method here since I'm not going to shade this drawing. I'm not too concerned about the planes of the eye yet. And then I'm going to taper this ever so slightly. I'm not going to bring it down. What I want to do, and I'll show you what I mean by that. See, I could bring this lid down here, but I want it to really sell that wrap. So I'm going to taper it or stretch it this way. Stretch it this way. And that's what I want to see in the homework too. Really exaggerate that roll around the tubular facial mask. Smile is very pretty eyes. These unique kind of eye shapes, always so attractive to me. And when you choose your reference, make sure you choose multiple types. I'm going to include a handout as well of some various facial types. So that's what we want to sell. And remember the point that Hogarth made. So here's the eyeball. Notice on this model, very clearly shows that this lid is not symmetrical. It's actually off. Right? The high point of the top lid, the high point of the bottom lid comes through the eye at an angle. Okay, it's not symmetrical. So it's very clear to see on this model. So look for that when you're drawing. Look for ways to use or to heighten that asymmetry. Ways to heighten the planes if you're going to add light and shade, and ways to push the wrap, really stretch it around. And here on this side, what I'm going to do here on this side is, on the far side, I'm not even going to show where the eye ends. That's how I'm going to wrap. Let's see. Yeah, that makes sense here too. So what I'm saying to the viewer is that the eyeball is covering up the lid. This side of the lid, it's being covered up. So that really sells that three-dimensional wrap. And that's what we want. So look for ways to really sell that wrap, exaggerate the wrap, and exaggerate the type too. Look for different character types and exaggerate the type of eye. Okay, so that's it for this. And the second part of the homework, we're going to do we're going to finish our skull. So to do that, we're going to finish the anatomy. So take your skull drawing, and then we're going to slap some muscles on it. So we really want to get to know what drives the skull. What drives, it's not the skull, excuse me, but what drives the face. Here I'm going to lay in this is the frontalis bone, bone on your forehead, or muscle, excuse me. Lifts your eyebrows. And this is the, this muscle controls the shape of your eye, allows your eye to squint, allows your features to squint. This is called the orbicularis oris oculi, orbicularis oculi, basically eye muscles. And there's two parts. There's the part that works the lid and the part that works the whole eye section. So there's that. And then this is the temporal bone, temple, think muscle in your temple. And then these muscles here called the zygomaticus. One is major, one is minor, and these lower your mouth. So see how the zygomaticus transitions to the mouth. There's also some muscle right there. I'm not quite sure what it does, to be honest with you. Infraorbital. It's called the infraorbital. I'm looking at, on my other screen here, a anatomy diagram. Infraorbital. Don't quite know what that means, but it's okay. So yeah, take your skull drawing, you know, any medium, pencil or pen. You know, I like pen. I like pen a lot. So I would do it in pen. And then take a piece of tracing paper and overlay it like this. Infraorbital. Probably lowers the eyelid right there. That's my little eye sketch here. This is, you know, this does need some refining because I want it to be accurate, you know. I want it to be accurate as much as possible. You know, I don't want to do a textbook anatomical drawing, but just to study for myself so I know, oh, okay, well, this does this. This does that. I'm not quite sure how this works, to be honest with you. I'd have to look at I'm getting a little confused here myself on this, this cheek structure here, the zygomaticus. that's pretty much it. I'm not going to continue too much more on this one. Just want you to see this one has a nice tendon sheet. This will really help to flesh out your understanding of the face. Once you understand the skull, you basically want the skull memorized, actually. You want this stuff memorized too, but let's start one thing at a time. You want the skull memorized in your head. You want to be able to draw the skull from any angle from memory, If you ever get confused about, structures and placement of things, draw a skull over and over again until you, and from every angle, try to pick one up. It's one of the coolest things that an artist can own is a skull. So there's my rough sketch. A rough sketch of the facial anatomy of the eye and the skull, frontalis temple bone. Okay, so for homework, do the skull study, complete the skull anatomy study, and add the facial muscles, superficial facial muscles, the big ones, the ones that affect eye movement, mouth movement, and things. And also do, let's say, 10 more 10-minute studies with tone and 20 more 5-minute studies, focusing on eyes this week, focusing on eyes and eye types, eye shape, and all the subtle nuances, and especially the wrap. We want to sell that wrap, three-dimensional looking eye. So that's it for today. Good luck with the homework, and until next time.